You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Omlor, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Omlor International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Business Wealth Impact. And our guest today is Keka Dasgupta. Keka believes in moving people from helpless to helpful through a powerful, free currency called gratitude. As a 20-year award-winning PR marketing veteran, Keka has dedicated her entire working life to studying the emotional undercurrents that connect people and people to brands. Welcome, Keka.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to have you. So tell us, what was your journey? What got you where you are now? What got you into PR? What got you into your Art of Lifing platform? I want to hear a little bit more about that history.
Sure, no problem. Well, I love that we're talking about our work and how we get to places, because when I was young, I used to see so many people in our communities that would go to a job because they had to. It paid the bills, and I always looked at that and I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to wake up every morning and get up and go, I love the work I do. I want to go forward and do this kind of work. And so I was that goody two shoes student as a firstborn with immigrant parents, and I was in school. I went into high school and I went into university. And when I graduated, I hadn't planned this initially, but I got married a month after I graduated from university. And we've been married, my husband and I, for 27 years. I wouldn't change any of that. But suddenly I was thrown into the world of adulting, and now I had to find work to pay the rent and do everything else. And I started my career, ironically, at IKEA, the furniture store, because I had no furniture and I was shopping in their as is section for our apartment. And I got into customer service, and it was a great company, but I very quickly realized, customer service is not it for me. I was, not feeling inspired, and I wasn't loving the job itself. Not that I minded it, it just didn't really inspire and fuel me. And so I was on the lookout of what I could do, but I loved the company itself. And then one day I saw an internal posting for public relations, and it talked about promoting events and doing press releases. And honestly, what I didn't realize is that I had been doing all of that kind of work since I was 17 years old for our Indian community and for my temple. And then I thought, oh my God, you can get paid to do this work. So I very enthusiastically applied. I got the job. 7 years later, I was still at the company doing amazing things. We were opening stores. I was taking press to Sweden. I was in charge of their corporate and crisis communications. But I'm just a lifelong learner. And at that point, I felt like I had grown in my capacity in that job as far as I could go. So then I decided I wanted to go into the ad agency and PR agency world so that I could diversify my experience. I knew home decor PR really well, but if someone said, I want you to launch batteries, I'd say, I can figure it out, not quite sure. So in that search, that landed me to an incredible agency. They were at the top of their game when I joined them. It was Doyle, Dane, and Bernbach, DDB, one of the original founders of Mad Men. And I loved that work. That was when I got into the agency world. I was working and doing PR for Nike and Disney and Johnson & Johnson and tourism in Canada, amazing, amazing work. And I loved every moment of it. I loved my team. I loved the work. But now I've been doing this for more than 2 decades. And again, I got to that point about 5 years ago saying, is this my legacy? Is this the work that I really want to be known for? Because I was working with really amazing corporate companies, but I was contributing a very small drop to a really big marketing machine for most of these brands. And that is where I started to really channel into my inner voice, that intuition, and say, what do I really want to do? And I knew that I wanted to speak on stages, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. I'd done that with marketing, but it wasn't really where I felt that love. And I ultimately ended up focusing in on an anti-bullying program for kids, because I'm a mom, I've got 2 kids, and I just didn't want young people to be suffering the way that I saw them suffering. And that's kind of how the Art of Lifing was born. It was a word play on the idea of adulting, because I was like, I've been an adult for a while now, but I really wanted to be lifing to its fullest, doing life on purpose. And I started to speak professionally at schools. From there, people said you should really go into leadership and talk to corporate companies. And so today, that's what I do. I'm a professional speaker. I still consult with marketing agencies, and I love that part of it that keeps me on the cutting edge of communications. But what really lights me up today is using the principles of gratitude, paying that forward, showing people how that can make an impact on people's lives, but also taking branding ideas and branding principles and then applying it to our own self-worth and our own understanding so
Mm.
that we can life to our fullest. That's kind of where it came
Mm.
from.
Okay, how fascinating. So started off with IKEA for
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Then you were working, when you say the madman, you mean in real life, the guy from that
Bill
was
Bernbach was
representing.
one of the original
Yes,
Mad Men, yes, and he
yes,
so his DDB was the ad agency.
yeah,
It's a
yes,
multinational, yeah, part of
yes.
Omnicom.
Yeah, yeah, it was the okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So then you created this platform called the Art of Lifing.
Mhm.
And how does that work? Do people pay a subscription to use that?
I'm building the platform itself right now. It is through professional speaking and workshops and training that I do. So I go into corporate companies, I keynote at conferences, I go into schools and talk to young kids. And, there's a humanity of what I talk about that's applicable to so many different ages. So what people would find really maybe unexpected is that what I show and teach in a grade 6 class is so remarkably similar to what I show and teach to a C-suite with a company that has 10,000 employees. But at the end of
Mm,
the day, who we are, what makes us who we are, the way we can add positivity into a school culture or corporate culture is so similar. And
mhm,
so when I started to do the school programs, I looked at doing a TEDx talk, and I actually ended up delivering a TEDx talk in Windsor. And then that sort of catapulted the corporate speaking from there. But it was all about paying that gratitude forward because every day we leave positive impacts on people, but we don't
mhm,
share it with people. We wait till they leave the
mm,
room and go, "Oh my God, isn't she great? I just love her."
mm,
And they never hear it. And we live in a culture where we assume people know how we feel, but we
mhm,
don't. And so that was kind of the first catalyst to going deeper into this line of work. And so the art of lifing is for whether you're young, you're old, whatever age you are, whatever stage of life you're in, you can get to know yourself better, and then you can help other people know themselves better by
mhm,
spreading that positivity. And one of the things, as a marketer,
mhm.
what I do is I take branding principles and apply it to mental health, because one of the questions I start a lot of my keynotes off with is, have you ever met a brand with low self-esteem?
Mm,
And we don't, right? Brands don't have low self esteem. We never call a brand egotistical. We never
mhm,
say a brand is so full of themselves. But
mm,
brands know who they are. They know the values they stand for. They know the company they keep. They're very clear on all of those things, and they spread their word unapologetically. But we often think, oh, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to come across as having an ego. I don't even know who I am sometimes. I mean, many of us get lost in trying to belong in other places, and we forget who we are. And so the work that I do is really about getting people to start to recognize their own personal brand DNA. What are they made of? What makes
mm.
them, in marketing, I've looked at the magic in people for over 2 decades and connected others with that magic. And now I want to help people market themselves to themselves so that they
Mhm.
can see their magic and bring the best of what they have in life to others.
Okay, something happened personally for you to get here. Okay,
Yes.
I'm guessing. So
Yes.
tell me that story,
You are
because I'm
such a
hearing
great
this
coach.
wonderful journey. What happened to you personally that made you do the bullying thing and this gratitude? There was some transformation. I want to hear that story.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, on the bullying side, like with many kids, I was bullied in school from time to time. I was lucky that it had never gotten to anything very serious, but in grade school, I used to have, kids pick on me. And I remember coming home one day, I didn't want to tell my mom a lot, but one day I kind of broke down and I told her that this was happening. And she stood up to my bully. And I remember the next day I was walking home, and she was at the front door, and she saw the girl that used to walk home in the same direction as me, and had a full conversation with her, and was very clear, like, you are not going to bother my daughter again. And I saw her strength and it
Mm,
always showed me what it meant to stand up for someone, and so
mm,
my kids laugh and joke around as well, because often in high school, I was friends with a lot of people. I was involved with everything in high school, but I often looked for people that would be sitting in the cafeteria alone, that didn't,
mm,
have anybody, because I didn't want them to be feeling alone. I didn't want them to feel like that. And I knew from that experience from my mom just how much of a difference it made for me, and I would do that.
mm,
But the deeper story that really fueled me actually started the original part of it. It was actually when I was in high school. I was in my last year in high school. It was Diwali, which is the Hindu New Year, so we have
mhm,
candles and whatnot. My father was at our temple, and he had an accident, and he had a significant part of his body had burned, his skin,
mhm.
and we had taken him to the hospital. The doctors told us at that time that he had a 40% chance of living.
Oh,
And, I like in my 17-year-old mind at the time, I'm like, we're going to pull through. We're going to do everything we can. And I didn't want to go into my father's hospital room when he was awake, because I just would break down and I'd start to cry. I didn't want him to see me cry because I didn't want to upset him. But little did I know, I had 2 precious weeks with him until he passed away.
oh,
So I missed some very precious time with him. And once he passed away, I just sort of kept thinking, what does this mean? Why did this happen? You try to make sense of it, and it's hard
mhm,
to. But the one thing I recognized was that I never got a chance to tell my dad how lucky I was to have him as my father, all of the
mhm,
amazing things that he did, how grateful I was to him. Just really never had that time to have a reciprocal conversation with him.
mhm,
But I also knew that I couldn't have that regret, because there was nothing I could do. I'd already lost my father at that point. So the one thing for me was really clear, was that with my mom, I didn't want to find myself in that same circumstance one day where my mom would no longer be here, and I'd say, oh my gosh, I never got a chance to say goodbye. So,
mhm,
take you back, there was a few years back, there was the Sandy Hook shooting in the
mm,
US, with a
mhm,
tragic event with a primary grade school class. And
mm,
my older son was in grade 2 at the time. So that news really shook me as I was watching it on TV. And that day, the kids were at my mom's place, and I decided I was going to stop everything and not wait a day more, because we get busy. My intention was to
mm,
talk to my mom. I wanted to share, but I'm like, I'll do it another day. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. And I
mm.
dropped everything that day. I opened up my laptop and I said, I decided I was going to write her a living eulogy, because I just wanted her to know how I felt. And truth be told, I thought, if I ever lose my mom, I don't think I'll have the strength to articulate how much she
Mm.
means to me. So there I am. I'm like typing away, and suddenly I look up and it's all dark. Like, it started in the afternoon, it got dark. I rushed to my mom's place where my kids were. I'm 2 boys, and just imagine this. My mom's in the kitchen. She's cooking an Indian meal, so she's got like 4 pots on the stove. She's cutting. She's doing this and that. The kids are squealing and screaming all over. But I've got a one-track mind. I've written this eulogy. I want to read it to my mom. So I'm like, Mom, I'm going to read it to you. I'm sitting at the kitchen counter, and I said, I want to read this to you. I read it. When I finished, she said, oh, that's really nice, Keka. And I was like, okay, she knows. You know what? She knows. I was
Mm.
happy I could put it away. This is how life works. Fast forward, but 6 months later, I'm talking to my mom. It's going to be, it was her birthday was coming up, and my brother was with us. And I said, I'm just so glad that my mom was able to listen to the living eulogy that I wrote to her, because now I know how she feels. To which my mom said, eulogy? What eulogy? And I was like, oh my God, Mom. And I realized then that she actually didn't hear very much of what I said, and certainly didn't comprehend it. She was just busy, and she was placating me at the end and said, very nice. So I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm going to email this eulogy to you. You got to make a commitment, you're going to read it. And then after that, we're going to have a conversation where you confirm for me you've read it. And I'm like, if she forgets later, that's okay. Some point in my life, I've given her this message. So, ironically, she ended up reading it on her birthday. So I called her in the morning. We, went off and did some things. And so the next day I called her and I said, Mom, did you read the eulogy? And her answer is actually what sparked all of this work for me, because she said, Keka, I did read the eulogy. And I was going to call you, but honestly, I was just so overcome by joy. I didn't know if I should laugh or I should cry. I wanted to take this paper and run out on the streets. I wanted to show anybody that I could see, look, 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 look at what my daughter wrote for me. This is the impact she said I had on me. This was the greatest gift anyone could ever give me. And very honestly, I was flabbergasted. I was like, but don't you already know this? Like, I did this so selfishly because I just wanted you to know. And I just had always assumed that she knew, and she had not known. And when I saw her reaction of how happy it made her feel, I just was like, I wanted to talk to everybody. At that point, I'm like, I want to just share gratitude with everyone I know, because what I realized is the impact that you give to somebody when you reflect back that positive
Mm-hmm.
impact that they have. It's immeasurable. We can't even imagine what it does for people. And those imprints often stick with people for life. And
Absolutely.
that was it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know Sean Akor? He's a happiness expert.
Mhm.
And one of the things he says to do, like you do this 21-day thing to be happier, and there's 5 different things you could do. One is 15 minutes of good happy cardio, and
Yeah.
at least 3 gratitudes, a journal of something pleasurable that you did. And one of them is a nice note to somebody in your life showing them appreciation or gratitude.
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
the most
So this is
beautiful
very
part,
much in line
yes.
because people don't know that, and it
Yeah.
makes you happy and it makes them happy. So
Yeah.
this is amazing. So from that, that is what made you want to start the platform Art of Lifing.
Yeah, because for me, what I realized was this: people, and myself included, we get busy and in the flow of life and in the moment, and then
Mm.
sometimes we realize I'm not living the life I want, or I look
Mm.
back with regret. One thing from my father's passing I realized is I don't want to live with regret. When an opportunity is here and I want to do something, I just need to take it because nothing is guaranteed, right? I lost my dad in a matter of 2 weeks. My brother-in-law, who was in his early 50s, got a cancer diagnosis, and within 3 months we lost him, and he was
Mm.
happy and healthy and everything else. So to me, when I just see all of these life events around me, I learned that I don't want to take a single day for granted. And what I recognized is that in our society we have all kinds of success metrics. You have to have a happy life and a happy relationship, and if you're a parent, you need to raise healthy and happy kids, and at
Hmm.
work you need the titles and the salary, expectations, the awards. All of those things are amazing, and I'm not downplaying any of those things, but those things ultimately don't make the difference in you living the life you want to live. And
Mm.
when you give love and you show gratitude and you are intentional, like, the beautiful part about sharing gratitude is it doesn't cost a thing. Anybody, anywhere in the world, no matter how old you are or how young you are, or no matter what your story or condition is, you can share gratitude. But when you do that with intention and purpose, suddenly you start to do everything else with intention and purpose, and you
Hmm.
can see the positive impact you have on others. Then you start to look at what you want to do for yourself. So to me, it's a cascading effect. And
Hmm.
I just, I've spent my entire life, my working career, marketing brands and people to others. And I was like,
Hmm.
why are we not marketing ourselves to ourselves? Why aren't we
Mm.
marketing the best of what we see in others to them and to other people? Because it changes your brain chemistry, it changes the culture around you when you take that step. And so that's kind of been my journey. So I started the Art of Lifing initially where I was speaking, and I just wanted happiness to be a success metric. That was part one. But
Hmm.
a coach a while back said something that I just absolutely love. It just stuck with me. He had said, in the absence of clarity, take action. In
Hmm.
the absence of clarity, take action. And so that's what I've always tried to do, is that this brand and this entire line of work for me started with a feeling. I wanted to speak, I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to have a bigger
Hmm.
impact in some capacity, and I had no idea what I was going to do. When I did the TEDx talk on gratitude, my kids started jokingly calling me Mama G, Mama Gratitude. I'm like, that sounds like a gangster name. But
It does.
right.
Well, you said
And
something interesting about
yeah,
in the absence of clarity, take action. Is that what you said?
yeah, that
Oh,
that was what I
that's like
heard.
that's one of my mottos. My motto is the remedy for everything is taking one step,
Yes, yes,
because
absolutely.
you're not what you just taking action. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So Mama G, I love the Mama G.
There we go.
Mama G.
Yeah, and so this has continuously been evolving. When people said, "Oh, Keka's the gratitude girl, Keka's the gratitude girl," I was like, "I am, but there's more to it. Like, the iceberg is
Mm,
there, and there's more." And if someone said, "What is it?" I'd be like, "I have no idea. I can feel it,
mm,
but I have no idea." And then it just, it keeps evolving for me, and I'm grateful for that journey. So
wonderful. So, what would you say to people that are listening, like as a life hack? I know people don't like that, but let's just call it a life hack. What's the life hack for people that you'd like to share that they can use?
Sure. Okay. So I'll share two things. One is kind of like a mindset and a thought.
Mm,
That first thing is listen to your intuition.
mm,
We are often too busy to listen to our intuition, and we get too many other external affirmations, or we see external opportunities. Oh, I want to go for this award. I want to go for this job promotion, or I want to do this. And all of that is great. I'm a very ambitious person and I love that. But listen to the intuition in your heart, because when it's telling you something, it's often showing you your purpose. It's all often leading you to what you're meant for. And that's where your ultimate happiness comes from. So the idea
mm,
that I'd love for listeners to kind of, walk away with is just listen to your intuition. Because when you do, it makes a big difference. And then like a hack that I would say, can I give everyone homework for a moment?
mm-hmm,
In most boardrooms, when I've been working on branding and
mm-hmm,
marketing, one of the things that every major brand that goes through a branding process does is they understand their values. So what are the
mm-hmm,
values that make them run? And the idea is that they want to attract audiences that share the same values. We always connect with people that are like-minded. But I think for many of us, we can feel the values and subconsciously we're
mm-hmm,
driven by them. But if I said, name your top 5 values right now, you may not know definitively. And it's hard. I always
mm.
talk about how like a surgeon can perform life-saving surgery on someone, but they can't operate on themselves,
No,
And so
no.
this is why it's hard for us to sort of build and understand who we are. So one of the exercises I talk about is on a piece of paper, on a sheet. Can I just so take a sheet of paper and
Mm-hmm,
put a column, and on the first column, write down the name of somebody you admire. Could be historical, could be living, it could be past, it could be family, it could be, Nelson Mandela, like at any level,
mm-hmm,
someone you admire. And write down the 5 values you see in that person that you admire. Because that's often much easier to do. And most of us don't have a problem doing that.
mm-hmm,
And then now I'm kind of giving away the exercise, but then I want you to draw a line in the middle and beside that, write your name at the top and start thinking about the values that are most important to you. Because what you're going to
mm,
find is column A and the person you admire, those values often transfer into you as well. And when that happens and you have that list of values, then you can ask yourself, the work I'm doing, the life I'm living, all the decisions I make around lifing,
mm-hmm,
are they centered around those values? Am I honoring those values? Because if
mm-hmm,
they're not, it might
mm-hmm.
be time for you to listen to your intuition. And if they
Okay.
are, how do you lean deeper into that?
Okay. So there's something going on here, though. Most people confuse fear with intuition or spinning with intuition. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They think that the spinning in their mind, which is the crazy racing thoughts of
Yeah.
fear, is their intuition and they act upon the fears.
Yes.
So, how can people know the difference between actual deep intuition or just the round the circular thoughts of racing that they think they're checking into, which is not intuition?
Yes. Yes.
It's fear-based thoughts in a rut of, oh, I can't do that because I'm afraid, and oh, I just
Yeah.
checked in with my intuition. How can they, and I ask a lot of people this, and
Yeah.
people say different things, but I'm almost fascinated,
Yes.
how can they know the difference between actual intuition
Mm-hmm.
or their fear-based thoughts and anxiety-based thoughts?
Yeah. I love this question. Um, the way that I approach this with the work that I do is that there is the logical part of our brains and the ongoing conversations we have in our with
Mm-hmm,
ourselves, and that is often where the fear-based thoughts are. When I ask people to listen to their intuition, it's not the conversations you can bring up right away. Intuition jumps in often when you least expect it. You're going
mm-hmm,
grocery shopping, you pick up a box of crackers and you're about to put it in and you go, huh. And that thought of intuition usually surprises you because generally it's not affirming what you're already thinking. It's in your heart, it's in your gut,
mm-hmm.
and it's going, haha. It's like a little quiet whisper. And often what happens is if you don't pay attention, it's gone. It's like
Yes.
a gust of wind, it comes and it goes. So for me, what I've learned to do is when something like that surprises me, and sometimes it happens in the shower where there's nowhere to write anything,
Mm-hmm,
but whenever I can, if I get something like that that's like a quiet whisper that just shows up, I really try to write just a few things down for me so that I can remember what it is, because I've learned that when I don't and I go, I'm going to remember that later, I totally don't. Like, what
mm-hmm,
was it in the shower again that I thought of? But
mm-hmm.
the idea behind it is that your intuition comes on its own. It's independent. You just, when I say listen to your intuition, it's sort of being open to it. And when that idea or that thought comes and it surprises you, and it's often when you least expect it, pay attention to it. Give it the gravitas it deserves. And then you'll see that sometimes that intuition will poke and prod you with something opposite to what you're thinking. It's not usually the exact thing it's going to validate for you, and it's not usually going to scare you. It's going to offer you an option you haven't considered, or it's going to reaffirm an option you're already scared of.
Okay, awesome. All right. So I have another question for you. What's the dirty secret about Keka? We all have like
dirty secret.
Dirty secret. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's that thing that people don't know about you that
that's a
I put you on the spot here. I know it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, okay.
I'll give you mine. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Like mine is, I actually am angry sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm angry, and I don't know if people know that sometimes I'm really angry about stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I work not being angry. People wouldn't know that because I don't tell everybody on social media, I deal with anger. Not that I have anger management problems, but that's one of the things is I can be angry about stuff and I need to process that. So that's a dirty secret about Jeanne. Hey, everybody, now you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's just an example.
Okay. So given that context, I think the one thing I would say, when I was growing up, I was hurt by people that I trusted. And sometimes there were people that were very close to me that nothing was sacred. When someone got angry, all bets were off the table. And I learned at that time, or I told myself, and I learned that inner child learned, you can't trust anybody. And so I'm super nice. I see the magic in people. I want to help people. I love people. I will do anything in that capacity to sort of help people feel better about themselves and see themselves. But one of the things that I'm actively working on inside of myself is learning that trust. And the first step for me in that trust has been just learning to trust myself. Because for a long time, I would keep my guard up and I was like, I need to be independent and I need to be able to do anything and everything. And I need to do it all because I can't trust anybody else. And as I'm healing and learning to trust myself in the process, I'm giving myself permission to say, you know what, when you can really, truly trust somebody fully and completely, it's not just a beautiful thing. I think it's a sacred thing, but I am so not there yet. Okay, logically, I acknowledge it's a sacred thing and I want it, but inside of me, I'm so not there yet.
Okay. So I love that vulnerability because, we're all talking about things and we're being interviewed and it's all lovely. But I want to hear like, okay, what are you really struggling with? What's really going on? Because we're all works in progress.
Yeah.
Well, Keka, this has been amazing. Thank you for being my guest. How can people reach you?
I would love for people to connect with me on social media. I am on Instagram and YouTube. You can check that out. My website is www.artoflifing, and lifing is spelled out LIFEING.com. So just connect with me. If you've listened to the episode, tell me if anything resonated with you. That's always the best part for me is, you and I are having this conversation one-on-one with the idea that we're really having it with all of your listeners. And so, if you've listened to this podcast and something resonated, please share that with me. Pay that gratitude forward if I can ask. And tell me what resonated and maybe it's something that you didn't agree with or give me a different perspective. I'd love that.
Awesome. And of course, we'll have all your links in the show notes, but I just wanted you to be able to say them for people that are driving. Yes. Okay, Keka, thanks so much. And everybody, thank you for listening and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are, wherever you're listening. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Wealth Impact. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and life-changing. If you want to support the show and stay up to date with all of our latest episodes, the easiest way to do that is by following us on your favorite podcast platform. Just hit that follow button to never miss an episode. And if you really love the show and want to help us spread the word, leave us a review and share the podcast with your friends. Again, be sure to subscribe, and until next time, be impactful.